We're back to deal with the budget issue shortly, but first now let's talk about mining, because mining activities are expected to take off within the Nyinahin Forest Reserve in 2024, pending cabinet approval of a mining lease and parliamentary ratification. Mineral resource estimated conducted by Rockshare, a private entity that will partner Gyadek to mine for bauxite in the Forest Reserve, estimates that the Nyinahin Forest Reserve is endowed with some 375 million tons of bauxite in 3 hills alone. Presented a report to President Ofori-Atta at the Jubilee House, Deputy Minister in charge of mining, Meku Duka, said all is set for government to carry through the controversial mining operations in the Forest Reserve. Latif Idris was at the Jubilee House and has the rest of the story.
The initial plan to mine in the Nyinahin Forest Reserve became controversial the very first day the idea was mooted. The justification has been that it will accelerate Ghana's quest to build a viable integrated aluminium and steel industry. However, the pushback has been massive. Members of the Nyinahin community, civil society groups, and environmentalists have spoken strongly against the idea. Traditional authority within the Tunnel of Fame enclave in 2020 in a statement accused Gyadek of not being transparent as far as plans to mine bauxite in the area were concerned. But it appears government is having its way.
The Nyinahin range has 10 hills. Pursuant to the MOU, Mr. President, Rockshore was assigned 3 hills, that is hills 4, 5, and 6, to undertake mineral resource estimate in these areas. The purpose of the MRE was to assess the quantity and quality of bauxite resources available at these sites in accordance with international principles and standards. Mr. President, I am this afternoon, on behalf of my minister, happy to report that the MRE has been completed and now we know the quality and quantity of bauxite in these areas. And we are by this report happy also to indicate to you that Gyadek has collaborated well with Rockshore, and these 2 teams or institutions have the highlights of this report, and they will be presented soon to you, Mr. President. Suffice to say that the completion of the MRE paves way for us to move into the mining stage of the operation and present a promising opportunity for building an integrated aluminium industry here in our country.
CEO of Gyadek, Michael Ansa, said the quantity of bauxite identified in the Nyinahin Forest and Range meets international standard and gives his outfit the confidence to approach financial institutions to help fund some projects.
Historically, we estimated that we had in the region of about 250 million metric tons of bauxite in the 3 hills we're talking about, that's hills 4, 5, and 6. Following the work that we've done now, we've been able to establish that we have a minimum of 375 million tons of bauxite in those 3 hills. 375, so a 50% appreciation. The other side of this is, having put that whole report together and identified the resource that we have, the next stages would be how we continue to develop it into a fully bankable project. We've done the development of all the project agreements relating to this. We're finalizing all of that. We're going to be establishing a joint venture company that will be owned by the partners, as in Rockshore and Gyadek.
It is estimated that Ghana is endowed with some 1 billion metric tons of bauxite across the country. However, the environmental menace created by activities of small-scale miners has triggered what has been a spontaneous opposition to the exploitation of bauxite, particularly in the Nyinahin Forest Reserve. But President Ofori-Atta believes a successful implementation of the project will justify his decision to allow mining operations in the area.
You know, our role is to provide you the maximum support that you need to make sure that this whole thing becomes a reality. I think that if we're able to do that, it would justify completely our thinking, the whole gear deck concept, that we will find a state vehicle that will bring together all the bauxite resources of the country under one roof, and therefore strengthen the hand of that entity to enter into these various transactions and things.
It can now be said with a level of certainty that mining would take place within the Nyinahin Forest Reserve despite the opposition and the controversy. What remains unclear, though, is the footprint that will be left behind years after the mining company has packed out of the forest reserve. Latif Idris, Joy News, Accra, Ghana.
Well, some may consider this as good news because one thing for sure, if this is off the ground, jobs will be created and the country will stand a better chance of getting some foreign exchange from the mine of bauxite at Nyinahin in the Ashanti region. But is this a welcome news? Let's explore this matter. And joining us is Hannah Owusu-Kranton, Associate Executive Director of environmental NGO WASA, Association of Communities Affected by Mining. Welcome. Hannah, you're welcome to the post here on Joy News. And if you can kindly unmute for me. Yes, if you can kindly unmute for me so we can hear you.
Sorry, thank you very much. I just want to correct us that Wakam is just Wakam. We changed our name in 2008, so it's just a name.
It's just a name.
And not an acronym.
Right, so
yes.
The matter on the table is the all clear being given by the president for some work to start on bauxite mining at Nyinahin in the Ashanti region. The agency tasked with, doing the feasibility studies, they've established the number of tons that can be mined in the area. Should we welcome this with, with songs of praise, or we should be skeptical?
Well, thank you again, and then good afternoon to all the listeners. I think when they did the feasibility studies, what they didn't do is the socio-cultural, environmental impact of destroying the significant forest reserves. And that has been the major problem that we all face. In fact, work in the environment space indicates that you destroy this pristine environment, and the cost is about 3-4 times if you have left it. And I like the review of the journalists who talked about the footprints after the operations. Nobody can recreate pristine environments. And that's why when they started talking about mining protected forest, some of us were against that. It started in the PNDC era, and then they developed some guidelines for operationalizing it, and it wasn't very legal. But then with the LI 2462, which was passed in November 2022, it's giving some legitimacy for an illegal activity. That's what I'll say. Because if you look at the Minerals and Mining Act 703, 2006, Section 3, it's explicit that mining is available on every land except when the land is covered by an act or otherwise. And what I mean is that once you have a legislation saying that this place is earmarked as a protected forest, as a forest reserve, as a globally significant biodiversity area, then it is not available for mining. And so for the state to develop an LI based on what I don't know, what law I don't know, because if you look at the hierarchy of laws, the Constitution is the basic or the primary law, then followed by the policies, and then you come to the Act, and then the LIs are developed to reflect what is in the Act. And so this LI that has been developed to allow mining in protected forests. Some of the forests that we are talking about will lose about 80+% of the forest. So Nyinahin for me is not good news. It has been there. We knew that it was rich in bauxite when I was young. I'm getting to my 70th year, but it has not been mined because we're considering other factors, the water sources, the environment, and what the environment can contribute even to the development of the economy. We are looking at the biodiversity and how if we destroy the biodiversity, we cannot recreate biodiversity. It's not possible. They talked about the business biodiversity offset programs. It's not workable because it will just leave the lands for plantation purposes, and plantation cannot be quoted to pristine environment. So we are just looking at the economic indicators,
the
and we are not
mining
looking at the
of bauxite in the area. I mean, I'm saying
exactly.
that I sense your opposition to this whole arrangement.
So we are looking at the economic indicators,
exactly,
and not the other social, cultural, environmental indicators.
Some will argue,
of all
if I become here, some will argue that mining can never take place without some kind of a destruction to the environment.
Yes, it is a destruction to the environment. It's not just we are not talking about the trees. We are not talking about this, the butterflies that they keep on arguing. We are talking about sustaining life for the present generation and also for the future generation. We are talking about how we protect our water bodies, because these pristine environments are the areas that we have our water sources. We are talking about the hills. 3 hills are going to be destroyed. What is it significant to the micro and macro environments within the areas? How is that influencing agriculture, for instance, because Ghana primarily is an agricultural country? So we are just looking at the economic indicators. We are taking economic decisions in matters where we should consider human being, we should consider the per capita, not only in terms of just the fiscals, but also the human development indicators.
It looks like government position on this matter is quite clear. I mean, based on the successful completion of the minerals resource estimate, the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation appears to have, now be moving to a stage where they may be looking into the banks to get some kind of support to make it possible for mining to take place at Nyinahin. What can be done to protect the environment such that we do not import the challenges we are having in the mining of gold to now Nyinahin?
Oh, well, it's just obvious that once you tackle, in fact, the production forests and other secondary forests were available for mining. And look at the devastation that we experienced. We have not cleared that. We are still battling with the waste, which is permanent. We are still battling with the groundwater pollution. We are battling with distorted rainfall patterns. We are battling with polluted water bodies. About 90% of all water sources in the country are deemed to be polluted, either from agricultural operations or from mining, or both. And now we haven't dealt with all these things. We are look at even the destruction to infrastructure, the roads, the road networks. What has bauxite done to the road network from Awasu to Takrady? We have not been able to build that road because even as government is pushing resources into the road construction, the trucks are moving. We are having the bauxite trucks, we are having the manganese trucks moving on these roads. And so government is sinking so much money into some of these areas, and we are not seeing the significance. And so we continue to talk about, the rents that we are realizing without doing a real cost-benefit analysis to even see, even if we take just the economic indicators, it will be positive or negative. I bet you, if we do the cost-benefit analysis of only the economic indicators, you realize that it could be negative. But we are just focused on mining and nothing is stopping us. But then posterity will judge all of us that we have not been fair to the people of Ghana, because many people in Ghana are not even aware that some of these things are happening. And even if they are aware, they do not understand the implications to their lives and livelihoods. They do not understand the implication to the lives of future generations and the destruction of the biodiversity. We don't have the knowledge. And so, yes, we can take the political decisions, we can take the economic decisions. At the end of the day, because we failed to look at development in a holistic approach, we are not going to have that development. We need just money to spend, and that is all. It's not about development, because that cannot constitute development for Ghana.
In the event where there is no turning back on government position on this matter, let me seek your recommendations on what kind of protective gears we can put in place to ensure that even as we mine for economic gains, we are also protecting the environment. We are protecting the people who live in and around these mining areas. We are protecting their water bodies such that mining and the perceived destruction can be done such that there will be harmony in between.
Yes, if we have a solution to that, then I would have reclaimed all the lands that we've mined by now. But you see, we are just interested in mining, and so nobody is listening. Governments should have started with a dialogue with the people around. How do we do it collectively? Because one mind cannot decide for all of us. We need the minds of everybody to tell us that, yes, if you move into those forests, at least this portion you can play with. But the point is that in protected forests, once you touch a bit of it, the integrity of the forest is destroyed. And so we have a lot of lands around. We have a lot of minerals around. We've mined gold for all these years. We are mining bauxite. We are mining manganese. We are mining sand. Some countries are just boasting of sand, and they are developing because they've done that in a very progressive and holistic approach. We are privileged to have all these. Now lithium is coming. We have everything. But because we are doing it based on political decisions, based on economic decisions, and not looking at development as a sustainable venture, we are not breaking even. And so we have to sit down and look critically. We have enough destruction around us to be destroying what is left for the future.
Most of these contracts, yes, most of these contracts will eventually end up in Parliament for ratification. What do you suggest MPs should do when these matters come before them?
You see, MPs, I started by saying that when the guidelines for mining in protected forests was developed, it began with PNDC,
yes,
moved to NPP, moved to NDC, continued with NPP, then back to NDC, and then it's been like that, NDC, NPP. And you know, recently, civil society organizations, we did some stakeholder engagement in Alesa just last week. We invited the opposition, we invited the MPs in government. None of them came. We invited regulators, they didn't come. And if we are talking about good governance mechanisms, which would seek the consent and then the minds of people, citizens, in the management of our resource because government, the state has been entrusted to do so on our behalf. Minerals are entrusted in the state to be mined to protect us. Then if you are my caretaker or something like that, you seek my mandate. We are refusing to do so because they think they have it all. I bet you a time is coming when citizens would recognize this right. Now, many people do not even recognize that the state owe allegiance to us and that they should do things that will promote our interests. And that is when good governance would be in force. But now they have a field day because the politics of the day is not about development. The politics is party A, party B, and what we can do within our 4 years, our 8 years. And so they are disregarding the owners and doing this in a very uncivilized, I should use that way. And at the end of the day, we are all going to suffer, including the politicians. They should listen to citizens.
So we have a government agency that is responsible for regulating the sector, the Minerals Commission. Now, some few days ago, somebody had the courage to say that he was going to mine at the Kakum National Park. Now, the Minerals Commission took a serious view of it, issued a statement saying that they've not given anybody such license to undertake such activity at the Kakum National Park. Do you get a sense that these agencies that we have in place and their sole responsibility is to protect the resources we have, and even in the event where they have given people license to exploit our resources, they do it within the confines of the law? Are they really up to their mandate from where you sit?
This is what I'm saying, that if you look at the Minerals and Mining Act, that is supposed to guide the operations of the industry. Section 3 of the Act, I'm talking about 703, 2006, is explicit that any land is available except when the land has a legal something backing.
But to put it bluntly, there is no law that restricts anybody from mining in a forest reserve. There's actually no law.
Well, I'm talking about a law in Ghana. That's a Minerals and Mining
Exactly.
Act. If they should go and look at Section 3 of that Act, that any land that has been declared a protected forest, a national park, whatever, is not out for mining. And that the Section 4 even talks about the states reclaiming more lands as forest reserves if they think that we are having dwindling forest reserves. And so the Kakum National Park issue that was promoted and now scrapped from their repository. Yeah. It's funny because it's not only the Kakum National Park. About 15 protected forests, globally significant forests, 3 globally significant forests, and then the others had been either given out for mining or they have requested for exploratory license. And Kakum was listed until the civil society groups, including WACAM, we've raised those concerns. And then they said, oh, we've taken it off. Why did they post it there in the first place? So it shows you that you can't have an agency that is supposed to be promoting mining, regulating mining. And that's why we keep on saying that we should have a very clear mandate for regulators and for promoters of mining. If the regulator is promoting mines and at the same time regulating mines, definitely you have some of these contradictions happening.
So we should have two agencies do this job. We should have clear boundaries between who should protect and who should regulate.
Exactly. Because the regulator cannot be promoting mine. How can you promote and regulate something that you have brought up? You have given the license for a company to mine, and then you are going to regulate that company. It doesn't work out well. Their job is to promote mining as they are promoting. And so we should have a body to regulate mining. And EPA, that is supposed to be regulating the environment, has now developed this LI 2462 to allow mining in protected forests. I mean, you don't understand what we are doing as a state, as regulators, as what we are confused. That's what I'll say. We are confused when it comes to environmental sanity, and then our quest to make money immediately to do what I don't know, because the economy, yes, I agree, we are in crisis. We need to sit as a people to talk through it properly. Things that we can do, very basic things like, yes, consuming locally produced foodstuffs, for instance, rice, for instance, and then cutting down on the import of rice, the import of meat and things like that. How to gradually do so, just to ensure that we are food sufficient within some space of time. That is what will bring development, but not just mining resources from protected areas because we want to show that we are doing A or B. No.
Let me ask a final question so that I can let you go. So now that we appear to be at a road where there appears to be no turning back. I mean, listening to the president, he appears to have given his tacit endorsement to the report that was presented to him by the authority. And then now they are looking to open up for financial institutions to help, or for those who are interested in investing in this area to come forward with their proposals so that they can be guided to go and mine at Nyinahin. What should we look out for? Are we just creating another illegal mining that is yet to, be a concern for us. What should be the learning going forward, especially if we are to speak to the president, the members of parliament, as this matter is likely to dominate discussions going into next year?
Well, what I'll tell the president is that either he is not conversant with environmental issues, and that's why they can allow mining in protected forests, because yes, you can mine there, but then you cannot protect the integrity of that forest. Once you touch it, it's lost. And so that is, we either mine or not mine. And well, we can mine, but then it's also it's also for citizens to also look at it critically and take their decisions, their political decisions, because government is taking political decisions, and citizens can also take our political decisions to ensure that we do not allow our leaders to just destroy. And unfortunately for us Ghanaians, we don't have a choice now, because as I said, it began with PNDC, NDC, MPP, NDC, MPP, NDC, and now MPP. And so it's as if our voices are lost. It is now time for citizens to really sit and consider whether we follow politics blindly, that I'm for party A, I'm for party B, or we look at issues that is linked to our own sustainability and see, yes, we can destroy the forest today, but then what will be the consequences of destroying the forest today? And these are issues that citizens should sit up and talk about freely. I think that should be the beginning of the discourse. And as for the government saying they will mine, yes, we can do all the things. We can make the noise. If they are bent on mining, they will mine. It will be at a cost to them, definitely. But then I'm not sure when a new party comes over, they are going to even listen to what civil society groups are talking about today. And so it's time civil society becomes stronger. Look at issues of development and not from a partisan angle, and then take decisions to influence the political decisions of politicians.
Thank you
Because
very
if you
much,
leave
Madam.
them,
Right, I appreciate your time very much for this discussion, Madam Anna Granton from Wakam. We've been looking at the government's approach to mining bauxite at Nyinahin. Yesterday, the authority presented its assessment to the president, and clearly the way is cleared, and there could be some activity at Nyinahin, the Ashanti region, in the coming weeks, months, for some mining to take place. But let's stay.